Hey everybody, it's your good old buddy, Dr. Matthews, your national human civil rights activist and advocate. We are here on location in San Antonio, Texas, which we call Bexar County. We are here with the very first Hispanic female constable out of Precinct 2. But check this, we're here because we are here to expose the corruption that she has endured with Bexar County. This is the interview that you all been waiting for. I have all the receipts and we're gonna go through each step one by one. So, Miss Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing okay today. Yes, ma'am. And I appreciate you coming and listening to my story and the facts and the truth. And that's what I want the community to hear today.
And you know what? Well, first of all, it's a huge honor to even be sitting in front of you because you are the first Hispanic female constable. Like, I'm a woman of color just like you. And that is like a huge, huge accomplishment. And I want to say this from myself to you. Congratulations and thank you for making a mark on history. Now, I know that you probably had to deal with some struggles with that, didn't you?
I did. I had to deal with a lot, more than any woman can ever imagine. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, how do you get from having these type of accolades, right, to you being indicted? Everybody, look at this. Miss Michelle has indictments. These indictments go all the way to official oppression, to tampering with fabricating evidence, to official oppression again, aggravated perjury, official oppression again. Like, these are a lot of indictments. Miss Michelle, tell us about what's going on with this.
Well, there are a hell of a lot of indictments. If you ask me, there are a bunch of stacked on, over stacked on, over stacked on. It's crazy to even see that and hear you, mention those out loud because I've heard them several times over and over, and it just kind of, it takes me down memory lane. It takes me down, how did I get from being the first Hispanic female constable to, like your question, these indictments? Well, it's a long story, and of course we won't be able to air all of it today, but we're sure hell gonna knock some of that out. As the first Hispanic female Bexar County constable, when I decided to run for this position, I went out to the community, I knocked on doors, I wanted to hear what the constituents wanted and needed in Precinct 2. And before then, I was a reserve deputy at the precinct myself, so I got to see a lot of things that weren't appropriate, right? And hearing the constituents, what they were looking for was someone that was going to be fair and just and listen to the community's needs and wants, and to fight against corruption and injustice that happens a lot alongside of a lot of police departments and elected official offices. So after hearing what they needed and wanted, well, I went to work, and with the help of my constituents, I became the first female Hispanic constable here in Bexar County.
And that's what Precinct 2?
It is Precinct 2, yes,
okay.
Ma'am.
Okay.
And when I decided to run, and when I was out there running, here in this county, the elite group, we'll call it, and I like to call it the mafia group here, the gatekeepers, they have the individuals that they want to be in these offices and that they can control and, well, as we find out, hide a lot of things, right? And I did get a message, when I was out there campaigning, they sent individuals to me, these elite, and they told me to back out of the race, get out of the race. I wasn't the chosen one, and I needed to step aside. That just wasn't going to happen, Politics. So I continued on working. And, because of that resistance, I, came across 5 men that were in office.
We're going to discuss them later. So you got some enemies, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, a lot of discrimination, defunding. I mean, I hate to call it defunding, but holding my funding back for me because I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do. And so they used tools to control these elected officials' office to persuade them to go the way that they want them to go.
I like how you said that, because when I was looking at this court transcript in regards to the current Bexar County DA, this transcript that I have right here, guys, it says, however, with that information that it is Mr. Vargas, we do believe that there could be an appearance of improprieties with the district attorney continuing to prosecute this case if a person connected with him and indeed employed as a campaign advisor was seen to be threatening a judge or threatening a judge's position on the basis of what the court does in this particular case. So we got a nice little dirty birdie district attorney here in Bexar County, and we're gonna show y'all his picture real quick. So tell me about that. What was up with this?
Well, first of all, we didn't understand who Mr. Robert Vargas III is. He is the campaign manager, former campaign manager of the Bexar County District Attorney, Joe Gonzalez, and also the campaign manager for the Bexar County Sheriff, Javier Salazar.
Oh, so he making a bankroll.
So he is in there. He's definitely working it. And so he is very involved in the Democrat politics here in town, and he influences a lot of individuals. And so working with these two, the sheriff and the district attorney, it came to a point where I wasn't, wanting to play with their games. And so we started receiving a bunch of, death threat letters.
And we're gonna get to that.
Right. And so eventually, once I became the constable and I wasn't following things, and, stories were coming, left and right at me, airing on TV from local news stations. And again, too, that's something that, we all know that some of these local news stations receive funding also. And so
they like to suppress.
Exactly. And they're about ratings too. So Mr. Robert Vargas here, this guy just, he felt that he can go and say, okay, if you don't do what I want, because I'm the big top dog here with these guys, then I'm going to make these stories about you. I'm going to say.
So pretty much a political hit job.
It's all political hit job. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I find it interesting that a Texas Ranger, okay, so while you're going through the indictments and going through your process, and so one thing that we all about is pulling receipts.
Right.
And so we actually have the transcript in regards to Mr. Bradley Freeman, who's
Texas Ranger.
Texas Ranger, huh? Okay, well, here is the transcript that we have, everybody, okay? So with this transcript, I found this real interesting as well. The judge states, I'm going to find you in contempt. I'm going to refer this matter to Judge Harley, who is the administrative judge for the 4th Judicial Region, with my findings of contempt. My recommendation is that you be fined $500 and that you take a course on testifying. Does your obligation as an officer does not end when you think it ends. It continues on this witness stand. It continues to be subject to the orders of the court. And that is something that every single officer in the state of Texas needs to understand. Why does a judge gotta tell a Texas Ranger that and put a Texas Ranger in contempt because they trying to put a hit job on you? Tell us about this.
Well, it goes back to me being in the office, not doing what they wanted to do. Eventually, I start calling out elected officials. Before I know it, there's all kinds of stories airing, right, which leads to a park event, which leads to me getting indicted, which leads to me going to trial because I wanted to fight for a full exoneration because I was innocent of all these charges. Now, once we went through trial, the judge and the attorneys all agreed there would be a motion in limine, meaning that they wouldn't talk about any other charges except the charge that I was sitting there facing to fight for my innocence. Mr. Bradley Freeman decided to get on the stand with his friend, Miss Dawn McCraw, who's the lead prosecutor, and it comes out in the transcripts. They are friends for many years.
They always are.
They are. And so While he's on the stand with the lead prosecutor, he decides to go ahead and mention other charges. So that violates the motion limited to influence the jury against me, who would reflect on the outcome of the trial. And so right then and there, he was held in contempt of court of what he had done. And this is all on transcript.
Yeah, because we pulled it.
Yep, they can read this for themselves. Yeah.
Well, we're going to make sure that the viewers take a look at what I just read so far, you know, and when we do these type of interviews, we're going to dig deep, right? And so corruption, it doesn't matter what party you from. You could be Democrat, Republican, Independent. Right. You could be, I ain't voting for no damn body. Exactly. But guess what? Corruption is corruption. And so with the corruption playbook, when they can't take you down, they come for your family. They do. So I seen some more stuff where they done came for your sons. We have documents right here, guys, that they didn't put charges on Miss Michelle's sons. And these charges read second-degree felony assault on a peace officer, resist search transportation, interfere with public duties. We got unlawful carry weapon. We got assault on a peace officer / judge. We got interference with public duties. We got resist a search of transportation. We got assault on a peace officer again, and interference with public duties. Okay, so you know what, that's too much. And then also, everybody, I want y'all to look at this video that we have, and you see exactly the processes, what they've done to her son. And by you being a peace officer, I need you to tell me about how the procedure that they did with your sons on these videos that was incorrect and improper. Tell me about how is that? Because I know how it is, but I want to get it from your perspective.
Right. Well, basically there's a use of force that we have to go through. And there's also a course that's called de-escalation. I like to talk about both of them. And the reason I talk about both of them is when an officer, and I guess I'll back up a little bit. The office that I was elected to, I was a training provider, so we did a lot of training to law enforcement, open the doors for free, not actually, costing the taxpayer a dime. And so during this time is, again, where we train on the use of force and de-escalation. If we go back to that day,
because that video showed excessive use of force from San Antonio PD.
It was excessive use of force, and it's sad it was my boys that it happened to.
Because since they can't get you, they go to your children.
Right, they can't get me, they come to my boys. Just looking at that and looking at the video of, my son being handcuffed with his hands behind his back, being lifted by a law enforcement officer from the ground, being swung in the air, and then just let go to a concrete floor. That we're not trained to do that. No law enforcement is trained to do that. A law enforcement, when he arrives on the scene, should look and assist, look at the threats, the risk. How can I calm the situation down where everybody's at peace and we can have a better result at the end, right?
Right.
Versus going and handcuffing someone and throwing them and doing whatever you want to, because they're not trained to do that.
Right.
And so and it also goes based on experience of the officer too, not just training, but also the training and the field training that they learn on the street of how to communicate with the community, right. How to get out there and talk with somebody.
Well, based on that video that we looked at, it clearly we can smell retaliation because of you.
It definitely is retaliation. I mean, leading up before that video ever came up, I received here death threat letters at our family business.
And you know what? I'm looking at a death threat letter as we speak. Guys, this death threat letter, they even put 2 bullets on the death threat letter that was sent to her. And this is one of many, because we'll be here all day. She have quite a bit of these death threats. And I know what it feels like to have a death threat, because I received a death threat because I exposed Texas Department of Health and Human Services as well as Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, when it comes to dealing with those children that were in, CWAP, which is Child Without Placement, and how I caught them not feeding the kids calling, telling me, and retaliation came into play, and I had a death threat in my mailbox at the house. So I know exactly what you're going through when it comes to this. But see, that's what happens when you are not complicit, and that you stand on speaking truth to power, and you stand on integrity, and you stand on for the people. Right. Because this is unacceptable. With 2 bullets, they put in my mailbox, they put a rope in my mailbox, and so they gonna hang me like James Byrd. So tell me about this death threat stuff. Tell me about this.
You know, that's sad. And first of all, I'm sorry you had to go through that, because I know that's an emotional ride. It's been an emotional ride for me and my family, my husband, my children, my grandchildren, daughter-in-laws. You know, to receive death threats, and then to actually have live ammunition mailed in here. Yes. With the letters or in a box. It refers a lot to basically, look, cops aren't cops. You know, you need to back off or we're going to kill you. And it gets pretty graphic, talks about blood and things like that. The initial first letter that came here was the war just begun, and that was right before my trial. Wow. A year leading up to that, and it continued on. And so, you know, unfortunately, the politics get really nasty and dirty, and they don't understand the effects that it has on the family. Because their children, they don't care. You know, if they can't get you, they're going to go after your children. Mm-hmm. And then you get the harassment that comes along with it, with police officers driving in front of my business, either following me or handcuffing my kids for a medical call. It was a medical call that night. And my son, because
I saw the ambulance that was out there.
Right. And my son just wanted to go with his girlfriend or wife, because they're common law. Yeah. And he wanted to go with her and make sure she's okay. And I've been to many calls where, you know, mom, dad, husband, wife, they're emotional. Right. You know, and that's acceptable. They're allowed to be emotional. Right. They're allowed. As a peace officer, we need to take a step back and understand that we need to also have compassion for people that you're responding to, and you have to assess the whole scenario, right?
And that's what you call community policing.
It's community policing.
But they
yes,
weren't
ma'am.
Doing that, baby. They were retaliating.
They were retaliating. I mean, here we are. We have death letters. We have cops aren't being cops.
Who they talking about? She's going to die
step
first.
Out.
Who they talking about? Who's going to die first? They talking about you.
They're talking about me dying first. I had a friend of mine who now, you know, it was an elderly lady, got so scared that she just stays to herself now. It was an elderly lady also that they were doing this to, which is very sad. I mean, they have no compassion, no heart. It's dirty politics all the way. You know, it's sad. It's sad. It's what's happening. But, you know, for them to come over here and retaliate and come after my family to get me, as a mother that night, I was there. You know, I saw everything that happened as a mother, and then I can go back later on and look at it as a law enforcement officer. But that night I was a mother. Yes. And no mother should have to stand there and see that, you know, see them handcuff your kid and, you know, and do whatever the hell they want to as a mother's heart. And then you have to look as a law enforcement. Right. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry. You don't have to do that.
So clearly with corruption, there's always the gatekeepers and the key players. So are you willing to drop the names so the community can know who they are?
Yes, ma'am. I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again.
Give us the names.
Sure. First one is going to be the Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar, the Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez. And at the time when I was in office, there was some Bexar County commissioners, Chico Rodriguez, which is Sergio Rodriguez. And he was one of them too. And Justin Rodriguez, Commissioner, Bexar County Commissioner, Precinct 2.
Wait a minute, right now?
Right now.
And just like the sheriff is, right
now, he's still in there.
The district attorney?
Right now, is still in there. And
what's the district attorney name again?
Joe Gonzalez.
Okay,
Joe
and
Gonzalez.
then who else?
Those were the key players. And then, of course, the head of the snake, which was the Bexar County Judge, Nelson Wolf, when I was in office.
Wait a minute, is that the one whose son that was arrested for because I remember we seen it.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened with that?
Well, you know, politics play politics.
He's in the mix with it too?
Well, yeah, at the time he was. He no longer serves either like his father, but he was allowed to continue on and, you know, finish off his term as long as he wanted to, you know, while it lasted. unlike me, you know, when they removed me from office because I wanted to run for the actual Bexar County Sheriff position in order to stop some of this corruption, in order for me to see what was going on behind closed doors.
Oh, so basically they had to move you out the way.
Right. Of course, for Javier Salazar, I was his opponent in 2020.
Oh, really? Okay. So now that we then kind of went through some of the stuff, because I mean, it's everybody, it's a lot. Like, we have to do more than just one exclusive interview, but we want to kind of give you the premise of what's going on. So now at this point, we were able to pull the documents that now you are in the court appeals for the 8th District of El Paso. Yes. So this is where we are now.
This is where I'm at now.
So tell us about this. What are we to expect? What's happening?
We have just, we went ahead and went forward to file an appeal because of all the errors and the things that were happening during trial, right? And so right now we're waiting for an answer. It can come back a day, come back a month, it can come back in 6 months, I don't know. But we are fighting, you know, for full exoneration because I'm innocent. I've always been innocent. From day one, I mean, if we look back where they came at me for park receipts that had nothing to do with Bexar County. You know, law enforcement officers are allowed to work part-time jobs, and whatever money they make on the side, they report to IRS. Right. Well, they came in the office and said that I was hiding receipts, and so I didn't provide the receipts when they subpoenaed me. However, I had hired an attorney to represent me that complied with everything that they were requesting in the subpoenas. Well, forward into the future here, when we were in the actual trial, in the actual indictment, it never mentions anything about providing cash logs, which was the park receipts.
And yeah, I didn't see that. All I saw was official oppression, you know, the stuff that I named. So I didn't see that. So to me, it's like, it's gonna be a long road for you, but we would definitely be here every step of the way so we can let the community be aware of what's going on. Because see, one thing about corruption, it doesn't like a light shine on them.
Right.
You know, it doesn't. And so, I'm very sorry that you really had to go through this, but your story had to been told, and we're gonna make sure that we get it out.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I mean, there's so many transcripts with all the elected officials' names I've mentioned here today on court record. I mean,
and that's gonna be for the next. That's gonna be for the next exclusive because it's a lot, y'all. Yeah. But thank you so much, Miss Michelle. We appreciate you, and we're definitely gonna continue to follow you throughout this process. We're gonna follow the court. We're gonna follow all of this because I smell a rat in the sewage of corruption, and I meant what I said. Bexar County, the hammer of accountability is coming, so you better get ready. Have a good one. Bye for now.